What if I told you that not all muscle growth is the same? That the way your muscles grow can drastically affect your strength, your endurance, and even how you look. In this episode, I'll break down the science between the two types of hypertrophy and uncover how these changes happen inside your body. Welcome back to the Deep South Experiment podcast. In our latest episode, we explored compound versus isolation exercises. In today's episode, part 4 of Strength versus Hypertrophy training series, we'll dive deep into muscle growth, specifically the two types of hypertrophy that occur. One structural, to do with fiber growth, and the other one is sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. These terms might sound like they belong in a science textbook, but I promise you at the end of this podcast, you'll understand these two different forms of growth in your physique and see how they align with the goals that you have. Let's start with the first type, the structural change or Myofibrillar Hypertrophy. This is when the actual contractile proteins inside your muscle fibers, the machinery that generates force, increases in size and in number. Essentially, your muscles are becoming denser. They're becoming more efficient at producing force. Think of it like upgrading your car engine to a bigger, more powerful version. You've probably noticed this in athletes like powerlifters or Olympic weightlifters. They don't always have the largest muscle, but their strength that they produce, it's unreal. Why is that? Their training emphasizes low reps and heavy loads and longer rest periods. It's a perfect storm for maximizing muscle growth. Shifting gears now to sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, unlike myofibril growth, this doesn't increase the contractile strength of muscles. Instead, it focuses on expanding the sarcoplasm, the fluid that surrounds the muscle fibers. This includes glycogen, water, and other nutrients. The result? Well, it's bigger, puffier looking muscles that are not necessarily stronger than others. And bodybuilders are a prime example here. They're masters of sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. They're training with higher reps, shorter rest, focusing on the pump to maximize muscle size, and that's what gives them that full sculpted look on stage. So which type of hypertrophy is actually better? The actual fibers getting larger, or an increase in fluid to give you that visual look? Is there a way to train for both? And more importantly, how do these types of hypertrophy align with what you're after? What are your actual fitness goals? Are you lifting for the numbers on the barbell, or are you lifting for the aesthetics, what you can see in the mirror? Or maybe you want a bit of both. But here's the thing that gets really interesting, is chasing size doesn't always mean chasing strength. Let's have a closer look at that. Imagine two gym goers. One is a competitive powerlifter who deadlifts 3 times his body weight. He trains heavy, focusing on maximum force production. His muscles are dense. He's a machine built for power. The other is a bodybuilder preparing for a show. He trains with moderate weights, but high reps, squeezing out every set to failure. His muscles have a lot of size, but he might not be able to deadlift nearly as much as the powerlifter. So which of those appeals most to you? Or perhaps do you fall somewhere in between? The main video of this series might interest you to answer that question. So we've covered the two types of hypertrophy and how they shape your strength and your size. But what about your body weight? How does this actually affect the way that you can move resistance? In the next episode, we'll explore the fascinating relationship between body weight and strength, something that's not really talked about much at all. So thanks for tuning in to this particular episode of the Deep South Experiment podcast. If you've enjoyed it, please don't forget to subscribe and like the channel if you feel inclined to do so, and I will see you in the next episode.